Hey everyone, today we're going to give you 10 tips for your first Mediterranean cruise. Right after this. Hey everyone, Johnny from Bite Size Cruises. Welcome back to our channel. If it's your first time here, we are just trying to give you the best cruise information possible. If that sounds good to you, we'd love for you to subscribe and come along with us on this journey. Today, we're going to talk about 10 tips for your first Mediterranean cruise. Meg from our team leaves in 7 short days to fly to France. Meg just gave a little woohoo there in case you didn't hear that. She is heading over to Marseille, France. She's getting on MSC World Europa, and they are going on a 7-day cruise in the Mediterranean. So today we're going to give you 10 tips to try to make your Mediterranean cruise smoother, easier, whatever you would like to call it. Number one is make sure you have travel insurance. Because if you have travel insurance, especially when you're going overseas, right? If you're going to the Mediterranean, if you're going to the Caribbean or you're going to the Bahamas, if you're cruising out of the US, things are much easier. If you're flying down to Florida and your bags don't make it, you can run to the store real quick. You can buy some things. You could do whatever you need to do and still get on your cruise with minimal issues. If you are flying over to France or Barcelona or Croatia or Greece or anywhere over there, and for whatever reason your bags don't make it, you're going to have a lot more issues. Same with if you are flying, right? If you're just flying to Florida and your flight gets delayed a few hours, you're fine. If you flight gets canceled, there are plenty of flights that are going to Fort Lauderdale or Miami every day. You could run to a different airline. I don't recommend that. That's why we always recommend to fly in a day early. But if for whatever reason your flight gets canceled, you have issues, you have a problem, your flight is delayed, travel insurance is there to help you. Not to mention if you get injured, if you have to fly back to the US for whatever reason. So very important you have travel insurance. You can get travel insurance through the cruise line. You can get travel insurance through a private company. There are many of them. If you need some tips on which ones to use, let us know. We're happy to give you some recommendations. But there are a bunch of them out there, and they're all pretty similar. Most of them, the bigger ones, are pretty similar. So our next tip is use a travel agent. So a lot of people nowadays book their travel directly through the cruise line if they're going on a cruise, or they book their own airfare or anything like that. And you could certainly do that. It's fine. When you get into traveling abroad or to the Mediterranean, it's always great to talk to somebody who's a little more of a specialist. So someone who really understands each of the individual cruise lines, each of the airlines. Because what happens is if you book through the cruise line, their priority is the cruise line, right? Their priority is just making sure they get you booked. Those people are not experts. They're just salespeople that are booking your cruise for you. If you go through a travel agent, the travel agent is going to be knowledgeable or get you to the right person who really understands those ports, your travel requirements, what you're looking for. Is this a good cruise for families? Is it a good cruise for couples? Whatever your kind of needs may be there. So it's really important to, in those specific instances, especially when you're flying to the Mediterranean or you're going on one of these cruises, to use a travel agent. You're also going to get valuable upgrades that maybe you didn't get if you just booked through the cruise line. So you might be part of a group and you might get an additional onboard credit or some dining credits or an easier way to upgrade to a different one. Or you might get help picking out a better cabin location. There's a bunch of different reasons to use a travel agent. It doesn't cost you anything more. And if anything, it's worthwhile just to give them a call and see what kind of information you get. So number 3, and this is the most common sense tip that we give out, which we give for anyone cruising anywhere, which is arrive at least a day prior to your cruise. Again, with everything going on with airfare, and even if you're local and you're driving, traffic, accidents, a bunch of different things pop up. It's always better and gives you more peace of mind on your vacation if you're just there and ready to go. You're a quick Uber or Lyft ride away or walk to the port, wherever you're at. This is especially the case when you're in Europe, especially if you're flying out of, we live on the East Coast, so if you're flying out of New York or Newark or Philadelphia, there may not be more than one flight a day or 2 flights a day to where you're going. And if your flight gets canceled, the next flight might not be for 8 to 12 hours. So It's always important to fly a day or two. Also, if you're flying from the US to the Mediterranean, chances are you're going to have a decent amount of jet lag there. So by the time you get there, you're on a completely different time schedule. You're 6, 7 hours ahead of where you were here. If you're flying from the West Coast, even more. So allowing yourself that extra 2 days, a day or two, if you can find it in your budget to do that, is really helpful. It also will give you a little bit of time to explore that port or maybe that host city that you're flying to. The next tip that we have is be thoughtful with picking your cruise line. Another good reason to use a travel agent. What exactly are you trying to get out of this European cruise? I think most people, when they think about Mediterranean, the thing that I always try to get across to people when you're cruising is it's just like a little taste of those different cities. So you might be there for 6, 8, or 10 hours. So be really thoughtful when you're picking your line. Do you want to go on a river cruise where you're basically taking like just a little shuttle to each one of these different locations, and maybe you're going to spend a little more time in port there? Do you want to take a basic cruise line that's built for amenities and families like Royal Caribbean, Norwegian, Carnival, where there are tons of things to do on the ship? Are you going with kids? Are you not so worried about getting off and getting in the ports? Are you more worried about what's going on the ship? And then would you prefer, since you're going on this, are you doing a special occasion? Would you prefer something a little more luxurious? Something with suites, something that's built for just getting you to each of these places as a mode of transportation? So thinking about that, be really thoughtful when you're picking your cruise line, because otherwise it's kind of silly. Like if you are going on like an Oasis class ship, but over in the Mediterranean, but you really want to spend a ton of time on the island, you're not really getting to use all the amenities on the ship. So figuring out what is best for you sometimes requires a lot of thought, and maybe a travel agent or an expert can help you with that as well. Number 5, have a plan for each city. So I like sometimes just winging it and going to different islands and really exploring, but I also love being really prepared sometimes. If you're going to the Mediterranean in Europe, you really want to do research and be prepared. One, just like anywhere else that you're going, you want to make sure that you're safe, the areas that you're going to are safe, and that you're not just wandering, especially anywhere you go in the world. Be careful. But the other thing is you're only there for a few hours. So if you're going to do an excursion or you want to try an amazing pizza place or a restaurant or pasta somewhere, do all of that research ahead of time so that when you hit the gangway of the ship, okay, I need to go from here to here to here to here. This is the best way to get there. This is how I'm going to get there. This is how much it's going to cost. All of those different little things. Those are really important when you're planning a Mediterranean cruise. And always make sure you get back to the ship in plenty of time. Number 6, choose the beginning and ending port very carefully so that you can add on and maybe experience things a little more. Again, we talked about it with cruising, right? It's just like a little taste of each one of these cities and places that you go to. So maybe you want to spend a little more time in Naples or Barcelona or Madrid or Marseille or Paris, right? So think about where you're getting on the ship, think about where you're getting off the ship, and try to make it so that those places are where you want to begin and end so that you could tack on some time, or it's close to where you want to begin or end so that you can add on a few days, stay there, and then still have it be convenient to fly back on the schedule that you want. Number 7, pick your shore excursions very carefully. If you are going to do an excursion through the cruise line or on your own, pick them very carefully. A lot of times these excursions are 3, 4, 5 hours long, and that might eat up your entire day, which is fine. Some of them are amazing excursions. One reason to use cruise line excursions is because they're guaranteed to get you back to the ship, right? You're going to get back on time. You're not going to have any issues. If something goes wrong, the ship will wait for you. If you book outside of that or you just wander around, it's your responsibility. And remember, you're in a different country. Maybe you forget to change your watch. Anything can go wrong. So just be careful. Pick your shore excursions wisely, and be very mindful of ship's time, not whatever time you think it is. Number 8, Be respectful of the culture. Try to learn some basics of the languages that are spoken there. Yes, most of the places you go to in the Mediterranean, people will be able to speak English, but don't take that for granted. I think sometimes we take that for granted all around the world. Be really respectful of their culture. Try to learn just at least a few basics, like, do you speak English? Or, is how much is this? Where can I go for this? Or good morning, good afternoon. One of the things we've been really kind of leaning into on our last few cruises is trying to learn more Filipino phrases, because a lot of the workers on the cruise ship are from the Philippines. And it's just really nice to like talk to somebody and have them feel a little more of like they're at home. So I think that really goes a long way. On our last cruise, we were on MSC, and our one of our waiters in the dining room was teaching us Filipino phrases all the time because he thought it was cool that we were interested in trying to learn them. So trying to learn some basics and being super respectful of the culture, I think, is really important, and it portrays us as Americans in a better light than sometimes we're portrayed overseas. So number 9, make sure your credit cards, debit cards, whatever you're going to use, do not have transaction fees. I don't recommend using a debit card. I recommend using a credit card, but make sure your bank doesn't charge transaction fees overseas. And then my big advice also is just have some euros with you. Sometimes you're just going to stop at a little store on the side of the road, or you might just grab something quick. Make sure you have enough just handy cash, not so much that you're going to get robbed, right? Not hundreds and hundreds of euros, but just enough so that you have a little bit in your, just as if you were at home and you wanted to carry 20 or 30 bucks with you on each port, just so you can buy something quickly without having to use your credit card. And then number 10, my last tip is just immerse yourself in the country and the culture. This is one of the other reasons that I'm not always all about shore excursions when I'm overseas. One of the things I think that is really great is to get off the ship and to just find a local, someone safe and reliable, or talk to somebody on the ship that's from those places. A lot of times you'll meet people and they're from Italy, or they're from France, or they're from wherever, and talk to them and say, hey, do you know a fun like local place that I can go to and try some food, try some coffee, try different things. I find that everywhere you go, if you walk around a little bit and you talk to people that are there, they have these amazing recommendations of like, hey, go try this place or go try that place. The tacos are great, or this is great. And you find these like genuine little spots that are not tourist traps. Like the funniest thing to me is if you go overseas, I laughed about this a lot when I was in Colombia. So I'm in Colombia and we're eating at all these like great restaurants in Colombia and eating street food, arepas on the street and everything else. And then you're walking into like the main square, which is kind of right where the cruise ships dock, and you see like TGI Fridays is packed in Colombia, in Cartagena, Colombia. And it's really funny because you're like, what are we doing here? We're at TGI Fridays in another country. So immerse yourself in the culture in the country, experience things. That's why we go on these amazing trips to enjoy ourselves. By all means, if you like TGI Fridays or you like Margaritaville, live your best life. But try to immerse yourself, learn some new things, enjoy the culture. Those are our 10 tips for making sure you have a very good, safe, and fun first Mediterranean cruise. As always, if you have questions, please feel free to comment below and reach out to us. We're happy to chat with you about it. Like we said, Meg is going on MSC World Europa. You're going to hear all about that over the next few weeks. So thanks everyone for watching. We really appreciate it. And we hope you have a wonderful day and a wonderful Mediterranean trip. Thanks. Bye.